Welcome to the Lion Den Roars. Coming to you live from the Grindhouse Brew Lab, Clearwater, Florida. Chris coming from Wisconsin. And we have Sangria Furlo with us tonight. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm Mark. I'm from I sing in a band called Sangria Furlo. I'm Irish, but I'm speaking with you from Andalusia in Spain today.
Nice.
You want to tell everybody a little bit about your band, where you're from, and how long you've been project under this name?
Sure. I never planned to be in a band. First of all, it was something that just happened. We play a kind of music that we like to call trans-European metal disco. And basically, what happened was that I was playing some acoustic guitar at a barbecue a couple summers ago. And then I got a phone call a few months later, and it was right after I'd had a bereavement. And basically, I showed up. I got a phone call from Mark Forthwaite, who was one of the founders of this band. And he said, we need a singer. So I was driven to this studio, which was it was something special, because it was kind of like when you arrived at the studio door, you walk down this corridor, which is kind of like when Hagen walks down the corridor of the cat house in The Godfather Part 2. And he arrives on the scene with the senator, and the senator has a dead woman in his bed. And I thought something untoward might happen to me as I was walking down this corridor. But something about the vibe of the place sort of infected me. And I ended up screaming down this microphone for about a couple hours. And I thought, these guys are never, ever going to want to see me again, because I just let loose all that pent up anger and all those things that you go through after you lose someone who's very close to you. That all came out. And when we kind of came to the end of the I don't know, audition, rehearsal, whatever it was, Rowley, our drummer, stood up and said, "So, you want to join the band?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure it's a band yet. It's kind of an art project." And it's still an art project, but it's a band now as well. So that's basically the story of our band. We recorded an album, Trans-European Metal Disco. I think you're going to hear some songs from that. My background was music. My background was film. Before I got into this, I was making music documentaries with Pete Brown, who is obviously one of the great lyricists of all time. He wrote "Sunshine of Your Love" with Eric Clapton and Jack Bruce. He wrote "White Room," and so he was heavily involved in Cream. We never wrote any lyrics together. We wrote screenplays together, but maybe writing screenplays might be a little more difficult than writing lyrics. I think possibly.
Yeah, what comes too easy, I guess.
I can't hear you very well, I'm afraid.
Let me ask you a little technical question here off the beaten path. Are you able to still hear us okay? Or I know we have a lot of background noise there. And Chris, if you could chime in on this?
I can hear you fine right now. As you leaned
Very
forward
good.
and as I read your lips, I could understand what you were saying. So I gotta look at your mouths a lot, and then I'll be okay.
All right, I'll try and enunciate.
I'm getting a lot of background noise.
Yeah, if we need to, Chris, we might just move during the break. But well, let's set up the first tune.
What are we going to listen to?
Did you want to start with Sangria Furlo, or are they coming in any order that makes a difference?
I think you should start with Sedition Day.
All righty. that's the way we listen to them. You want to tell us a little bit about it, or is that up to the ear of the beholder, and we'll talk when we get back?
I'll tell you what, why don't you listen to it and you tell me what you think about it, and then I'll tell you what I think about it.
All right, very good.
Okay.
That sounds good. Let's check out the tune. And when was this written?
Oh, this was written about, it came up, it was an idea that Klaas Blomstrand had to start with. When I arrived in the band, when I had that first kind of audition rehearsal day, you know, they played this series of chords, and I said, well, what do you want me to sing? And they said, well, sing the days of the week. So I screamed the days of the week, and then I thought, well, but what's happening on those days? And it sort of expanded from there.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you a bit more about what it's about once you listen to it.
Very good. Sedition Day, ladies and gentlemen.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday at the University. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday at the University. Tuesday, 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 and me. Tuesday night, on Tuesday night, we'll go much. And day, Tuesday, 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 and me. On Tuesday night, on Tuesday night, on Tuesday night, we'll go off when I'm me. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday at the University. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday at the University. Monday, 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 it's Red Sox Day down the Fenway. BC Jocks, go the Village and Ray. Monday, 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 come with the feast day down the Fenway. BC Jocks, we got that cranium dry. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday at the University. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday at the University. Friday, we'll get the band raised with Chelsea Clinton, and the champagne on Friday. With Chelsea Clinton, and the champagne on Friday. Friday, we'll get the band raised. Saturday, that's on Friday. Saturday, that's on Friday. Sunday, that's Friday. Sunday, that's Friday. Sedition Day.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Love the groove on that.
Thank you very much.
So as far as a meaning for it, for me, I can tell you what it meant to me or what it stirred up for me. We're always naming days of the week. I'm forever telling Kimmy that it's Saturday when it's not, and it struck kind of a personal chord for me because it was, it reminds me of that. I have a feeling there's a little deeper vein to it with the speak of the athletes and towards the, I believe, third verse, something like that. And each day having a meaning or a meaning for the day. I don't know as far as subscribing a meaning and societal norms, or I might be looking too deep on that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Friday is the night that we dance at Man Ray. You know, the Man Ray Club was a very special club in Boston. The whole song is really based around the Boston punk scene, rock scene, underground scene. Many years ago when I lived there, and I was in university at the time. I went to Boston University. I went to the School for the Arts, which is the College of Fine Arts now. But you know, basically, the idea of
What does sedition mean?
Sedition. It's what America did in when they had the Boston Tea Party, and they threw all the tea over, and they started a war of independence. Well, that was sedition against the British Crown, which is something that I'm very much in favor of, being Irish. So it's about that, and that seemed very fitting for a song about Boston. But it's the idea of that kind of moving through the generations, and what is sedition now, symbolically, not in reality, not really against the state, but symbolically in life. Where do we find sedition now? Where do we find rebellion against our social norms? You find it in underground music. You find it in punk. And so I was naming some of the clubs that I frequented in Boston at the time. You know, it's the first verse is Tuesday at the ME. Well, ME was the Middle East club who had amazing bands all the time. So on Tuesday night we'll pogo mosh to indie. Tuesday at the Emmy. By Tuesday night we'll know our enemy. We'll find something which we're not happy about, and we'll release that energy on Tuesday night, you know. And so you go through the some of the days of the week. Monday is about baseball. I lived on the 18th floor of Tower 80 in Warren Towers at 700 Commonwealth Avenue, and the person who lived next to me, they had a view of Fenway Park. And so Fenway Park, home of the Red Sox, was something that was quite special to us, especially because we had the Sitco sign.
As we're setting up the next song, then.
And there were lights that were out on the Sitco sign, and so the kind of the folklore was that's when somebody hit a really hard home run, that they take some of the lights out on the Sitco sign about a block away from the Fenway Park. But we get down to some of the different tribes of people in Boston as well. You have, you know, Monday is Red Sox Day. Down the Fenway, the BC Jocks, which is the Boston College Jocks. The BC Jocks are going to pillage and rape, because this is what they were known for at that time. You know, I'm not saying this as a foundation in fact, but I'm saying that this is sort of what they were kind of pigeonholed as, and then you've got a mention of the Dropkick Murphys in there, because that was a local band that played in Boston. Now obviously it's a much bigger band, but they used to play in our neighborhood. So it's Monday is Dropkick Murphys Day. Down the Fenway, the BC Jocks are going to get their craniums rocked, because there was, you know, a lot of fighting in Boston. Boston is a lot of fighting. There's almost no guns in Massachusetts, you know, because everything is illegal in Massachusetts. So people, when I was living there, could still have fist fights, and that would be the end of it. It wouldn't go any further than that.
Right.
And that was kind of the feel. and there was some tension between different groups of people, and that was another expulsion of I suppose that energy, the type of energy which the American founding fathers used to gain independence from the British Empire.
Yeah, an interesting concept, especially today when it's getting pretty divided over here, or at least a lot of people would like you to think so.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is hype. I wonder how much of that is propaganda.
Yeah, yeah. In American, in American politics, and generally speaking, worldwide as well. You know, it is an interesting subject and question of everything that we're getting and granted, people get their information from different sources and worldwide countries and whatnot. But as far as the general shtick of what's going on around the world, how much of it is contrived?
I mean, I think that, we need to probably sensibly listen to each other with an open mind. And we don't have to agree with each other. But
getting past the pragmatics of cultural norms is a very huge step. And if you can't get past, well, why are they doing that, or why aren't their names spelled right? There's a giant leaps that we can go forward just in the basics.
Well, I lived in London. I live in London sometimes still, but I lived in London full time for 15 years, and London being it's a metropolis like New York. It's a very big city. It can seem unfriendly at times, but I always would go somewhere if somebody seemed a little unfriendly. I'd just try and get even friendlier, and usually it would take
double down, huh?
It would take about a minute to break through the icy veneer.
Right.
So I don't think it's. I think we all just kind of need to be a bit more positive, probably, in terms of our discourse of people, and not judge them for, what they look like or what baseball cap they're wearing.
Yeah. I agree.
That's my feel. So I think all of this is all these problems that we seem to have. I'm not saying we actually have them. All these problems we seem to have are probably really quite easy to resolve. Just a better form of communication.
Isn't it about time as well? I mean, for adults, we should be running our nations as an adult would. There seems a little bit of, I don't know, I'm not trying to bash my own country, but some of the ways that some of the countries behave these days are less than adult. So
certainly.
And again, I am in no way bashing my country. I'm a patriot, and I love this place. Born and raised. Well, I think we could do better in some of our politics.
I grew up in different parts of Europe. I grew up in Ireland. I grew up in Belgium. I grew up in Switzerland. And when
tell us again what part of Spain, if I might, Mark, and forgive me, I was having a lot of background noise, and I can hear you much better now. Tell us again what part of Spain you're from.
So the part of Spain that I live in a lot of the time right now is Andalusia.
Okay.
I live near a city called Malaga. So we're right on the southern coast of Spain. When I go hiking on a clear day, I can see Africa. So that's to give you an idea of where we are, where Europe meets Africa.
Portugal's right there as well. I mean, not to be rudimentary on my geography, but
Portugal's just a few hours drive from where I live. Gibraltar, which is a British enclave, is about an hour and a half from here. And then Morocco is, I mean, if you drive to Tarifa, you've got about a 2-hour drive and then a 45-minute ferry ride across to Tangier in Morocco. So, we have a lot of opportunities for discovering I mean, when you arrive in Tangier, it's like you've arrived on another planet. Coming from Spain to Tangier 45 minutes later, it's like arriving on another planet. It's quite an incredible experience. And it used to be there was a 2-hour time difference. That's changed now because they introduced daylight savings. But before they had daylight savings, if you went there in the summer, you arrived an hour before you left, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty amazing place to live. Andalusia was, by the way, about 100 years into the religion of Islam. Andalusia was invaded by the Berbers, who were Muslim, and who are Muslim today, because you still have Berbers in Morocco and in Algeria. And so this part of Spain was it went through about 800 years of being a Muslim state. When Europe was in the Middle Ages, they had street lights here. They invented the wine bottle so that you didn't have to throw away the old terracotta things.
Right.
And they had people used to travel from all over Europe to study in the universities here. So, and then of course you have the famous Spanish Inquisition, where they expelled Jewish people from Spain, then they expelled Muslim people from Spain. And so you have all that history here, and you have all the cuisine, and you have all the architecture still, which came from North Africa.
Yeah.
So this is the meeting of the worlds here, you know. And I heard something very interesting recently. I'm going to quote one of my countrymen. Bono was on the Joe Rogan podcast, I think, about a week and a half ago.
Right.
And he said if America is the melting pot, then Europe is the mosaic. And so Andalusia is one of the parts of the mosaic, and it's beautiful. Spain is such a beautiful country. The people in Andalusia are incredible people, really, really kind-hearted people, very family-oriented, will help their neighbors. They're very good people. This is a great
You still
place.
have if I may, you still have like an old world village-y kind of feel. I get that.
Oh, we when a car comes by where I live, it could be a complete stranger. They wave to you, and you wave back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, thank you for not knocking me down.
Do you have, are they an older, not to get too much into the infrastructure, but are we looking at cobblestone streets or anything like that nature?
There are. They've preserved those streets. Many of them, but we also have a super modern infrastructure. We have very good highways. We have, I mean, Spain is very interesting because if you think about it, so China has the largest rail network in the world. Spain is the second highest.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen those actually. I've seen programs on them. Yes.
It's incredible, you know. You can go from Malaga, you can be in Madrid in 2.5 hours on the train. It's fantastic. I think they go like 300 kilometers an hour. Don't ask me how to translate that into miles, but it's pretty fast.
Yeah. Are you a water person? Do you find yourself on the coast much? Outdoorsy kind of stuff, or sightseeing or anything like that?
I find myself up in the mountains a lot. Having grown up in Switzerland, I tend to like being in the mountains, so I walk 5 times a week, about 4.5 kilometers with my dog up in the mountains, and we walk through the countryside. Sometimes we might find a herd of goats, but then, you know, I'm 20 minutes from a major international airport at the same time, so you kind of have a very modern world. And the best parts of a sort of a rural life juxtaposed against each other.
You paint a very brilliant picture of it, sir.
It's beautiful here, but I think America is beautiful also. You know, and I want to say that when I grew up in Belgium, I went to a school where most of the students were American, and most of my friends were American. Most of their parents were in the U.S. military, and you know, somebody said to me, "Who would you like to have?" Recently, an American friend of mine said to me, an American friend who lives in Europe, "Who would you like to have as the most powerful nation in the world? Do you think it works with America?" I said, "Well, you know, what's the option? America? What are the other options? Right? Okay. I mean, we're reasonably influential and powerful,
Which gets down to governmental kind of things too. Yeah.
But there's a synergy between Europe and America, and it's a very good synergy. If you think about the blues, for example.
Oh yeah.
Think about blues music. You know, blues music was introduced in England through African American sailors who would arrive in the ports of Liverpool and places like that. They'd bring records with them, and they'd sell the records to locals. These were not records which were in distribution to start with.
Right.
And
Coming off the boat.
when they came to serve in World War II, they came with guitars. They played blues music, and English people started to pick up on that. And then, you know, that gave birth to bands like the Rolling Stones,
Right.
who would have listening parties. They would have listening parties where they lived in London, in people's living rooms, listening to these blues records which are coming from the States. And then they went to the States. There was the British invasion was really a kind of a British American invasion. So they had
regurgitated
music,
and
brought it to the States. And at that time, you know, you had it was very strange. You had, I suppose, what you would call kind of segregated stations. Maybe they weren't segregated because anybody could listen to them, but you had stations which were specifically for the African American community, and they were the stations that would play the blues in America. But when the Stones came, you know, they made it acceptable, along with Elvis, of course. I mean, we can't forget about Elvis. But they made rock and roll, and they made the blues acceptable for the rest of the population of the United States to start listening. And that's what popularized it. So that European American synergy is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, half of my heroes are British, guitar heroes, rock stars, whatever, and half of theirs were American blues heroes. I think Geddy Lee said it really well at Band Rush. He said half of their influences was American blues through the British sensibilities, you know, as coming back to them that way. The bands that you're talking about there too. But I'll tell you what, man. Let's get into the next tune. Let's keep the show rolling if we can.
Can I choose the song again?
Yes, please.
Well, to keep it on the Boston theme,
all right.
It'd be nice if you played 18th Floor, which is about something that happened on the 18th floor of Tower A in Warren Towers at 700 Commonwealth Avenue in Boston.
All right. Again, we can follow suit with listening to the song, and then we'll discuss afterwards if that sounds good.
Sounds awesome.
Dukester, are you still home?
He's
still here. I was getting ready to cue the song up.
Oh, okay. I was going to say something, you know, terrible about you, inflammatory, but
he's always I can't take the night off, but I'm not going to let him do it.
I can't see your beautiful face right now, though. You've got the camera off. What are you doing, man?
Trying to focus on all the background noise.
All right. I thought maybe you were doing something that, you know, you didn't want to share with the public.
No. Keep my eyes closed so I can focus. I don't want people to think I fell asleep.
Okay.
So we're moving into 18th floor, Chris.
That's awesome.
Yes. It's a great song.
Thank you.
All of these were great.
about the motion of my dysmorphia. Take your morphine to reach my dystopia. Falling back in time. Retreat to the fetus of our crime. See you in your glass booth, now come next to me, rejecting your roof. 18 floors up, he's got his joker, landed out by the White House. Pour out through that fiberglass door, answer crimson tide. Elevator full of blue-coated haters, blinded out by your sight. In the bus now, sirens singing, retreat to the fetus of our crime.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Right
you.
on. Get back in here, Digster. Where did you go? All right. Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
tell me what you think.
Well, I'm not sure what's going on there. I can compliment you on the darkness of it and the phasiness of it in a good way. That might be sounding like a derogatory thing. And I absolutely love a good, insane crybaby lead. My kind of lead. Yeah, just
Thank you.
love that. Yeah, the distortion level of it, everything.
Thank you.
And a cut time out of nowhere. Love that as well. Grabs you. I'm guessing
Thank
this
you.
has a pretty dark undertone. I would ask you just to let us know on this one, man, if you don't mind. Chris, did you get something out of it that you'd like to share? Chris?
Oh,
As far
Chris,
as,
I
how
think
did
the
it hit you?
question was for you, Chris, and not for me.
yeah, I'm not used to that.
Well, a little bit of a discussion back and forth is beautiful, you know?
That is
It's a
true.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Did it have to do with our 9/11?
No, nothing to do with that. It was
I think, yeah. How do you get that out of it?
But that's interesting because it is a dark song, and it was a dark thing that happened. But there's characters in it. You know, there's characters in the song. I mean, when I think about a song, I think about a movie because I'm a filmmaker, and so one of the things that I realized and there's a documentary that will come out, by the way, called White Rooms and Imaginary Westerns. See my dog? White Rooms and Imaginary Westerns, which talks a little bit about the type of lyrics that you want to write. And one of the people who I interviewed for the movie was Martin Scorsese. And he talks about Pete Brown's lyrics being very cinematic. You know, it's like if you think about White Room, for example, you think about jump cuts in a movie. In the White Room with black curtains near the station, black roof country. So you got like an aerial shot of London, black roof country. For me, this is what I was thinking. And by the way, Pete corrected me in the meaning of the lyrics later, but this was my interpretation listening to it. Black roof country, so like the black roofs of London, no gold pavements. You're getting down to the street level. Tired starlings. These are tired people who were searching for the dream.
We're quoting a Cream song here for those of you that might not know.
Are not finding it. Yeah, we're talking about a Cream song.
White Room. Go listen to it. You've heard it 100 times. Check it out.
So, you know, from that kind of discourse that we ended up having around the movie, I suppose that when I joined the band, it was sort of a natural approach for me with lyrics to create something that would maybe inspire images. In my mind, certainly, as I'm singing, and those images change all the time, except for this particular song, because this particular song, 18-4, is very personal to me. And basically, it's the story of a friend of mine, Nick, and he put, you know, his arm. There were these swinging doors where we lived. There were fire doors, and they had glass in them, like fire-resistant glass. You know, you have the metal meshing inside to stop the glass from shattering at a high temperature. And he put they're not very big. These windows are, you know, sort of the size of my head, I suppose.
Right.
And he put his arm through the window all the way up to here. And the whole pane of glass came out of the door. And so it was on his arm, and he panicked, and he went like this. So, banana peel. So I administered first aid.
Right.
And you said the song is very dark. Well, when you get a lot of blood goes very dark as well. You know, and so we were in, I don't know, about it seemed like 6 feet of blood in every direction as a pool on the ground.
Yeah.
And then we were waiting a very long time for the ambulance. Nick was going in and out of consciousness as we were, you know, applying pressure. An EMT lived on the floor below us, on the 17th floor. He came up, and he was able to help me to apply pressure to the wound.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys saved his skin too. Did he make it?
Yeah, he made it. He made it. We got him into the. Well, that's where it comes from. In the bus now, a bus is an ambulance.
Okay.
And you know, when the police call for an ambulance, they call for a bus. So a bus is an ambulance in Boston. So in the bus now, sirens singing. Well, the sirens are like maybe he's on the edge of death, and so it sort of brings in an Irish thing. The idea of the sea sirens, or actually that's probably a Greek thing. The sirens at the sea, but it's also the sirens of the ambulance.
Gotcha.
The sirens of the ambulance. I was in the back of the ambulance with him. I can't believe they let me in, but they did. In the bus now, siren singing, retreat to the fetus of our crime, because really it shouldn't have happened. It was our fault. We were just like, messing around, and it happened, So it's,
you could have lost it real easy,
being on the edge of that. It's very much about that. But there are characters in it as well. There's See You in Your Glass Booth, Malcolm X Koofy protecting your roof. And that was, about, there was a guy who worked security in that building. He was in a glass booth, like you'd see in a prison almost, where you might have a prison guard behind a glass booth observing everybody.
Yeah.
But I became friends with the security guy who worked there, and he was an actor as well, Thomas Grimes, and he used to perform in a play called The Meeting, and The Meeting was a play where, if you could imagine something that never happened between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Okay.
And so the kufi is the hat that Malcolm X would have worn from time to time. So it's about also spirituality protecting you at that moment of life and death. But there's always an angel there,
Yeah, he
certainly
had his. Yeah, arguably you
survived. Well, yeah, but I may have also been the perpetrator to some extent of what happened to him, but it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah. How many films do you have films out? You say you're a filmmaker. Is there a film that our listeners and I can check out?
Absolutely. So there's a movie. It's on an American streaming platform. It's a new streaming platform called Sunstream, SUNN Stream.
All right.
And it's called The Cream Acoustic Sessions. That's a documentary film that I filmed mostly at Abbey Road Studios in London. We filmed a lot of it in Studio 2, which is where the Beatles recorded.
Amazing.
The album that accompanies it is called Heavenly Cream. It's produced by the incredible Rob Cass. And the thing about that movie is that the concept was that we wanted to do a reimagining of Cream songs with some of the original members. And some of the family and some of the people who'd worked with them. So we made the movie with Joe Bonamassa, Ginger Baker, who was, obviously the most legendary drummer in my opinion. The greatest rock drummer who ever lived was Ginger Baker, and really he was a jazz drummer. So we have Ginger Baker, we have Malcolm Bruce, Jack Bruce's son. I think Malcolm Bruce, by the way, will be on the EWL show soon. That will be a very, very interesting interview.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We have Pete Brown singing. We have Bernie Marsden from Whitesnake. We have some amazing people. Just everybody on there is a star. It's an all-star.
Sounds like an interesting watch. Definitely.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So you can get it on Sunstream if you get a subscription, or you can pay for it as a pay-per-view on Vimeo.
All right.
So that's where it's available, and it was produced by Quarto Valley Records, who are based out of Santa Monica, and headed by the legendary Bruce Quarto, who has supported so many artists over the years.
Right on. Let's check out the third of your tunes.
Now you choose. I just wanted the two Boston tunes together.
All right. Very good. I'll go right into your theme song, or your self-titled.
All right. Sangria Furlo, spelt differently, spelt correctly.
Do you want to, well, let's just follow suit. This is working for us. We'll check it out. We'll come back. We'll chit-chat about it.
Thanks.
Sangria Furlo by Sangria Furlo. Different spelling.
Now Chris is loading it. We got to give him a minute, It's not fair. We put him under a lot of pressure. It's not really cool. Man, just please don't feel under any pressure from us at all.
Well, as he's doing that, then I can take this next 30 seconds at least and talk up something that I think you and I are both part of this October in Davenport, Iowa. Is that correct?
Yeah. Are you playing at Punk in the Corn?
We are playing.
Oh,
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah. We're talking about Punk in the Corn. Right on.
Punk in the Corn is such an amazing project. The brainchild of Tim Wolosian. And what an amazing human being he is. I haven't met him in the flesh, but I kind of feel a really kindred spirit. He's put this all together basically to support underground bands and to support veterans, combat veterans, particularly from the Afghanistan and the Iraq War. And that's something that's really an incredible thing to be doing.
Yep, absolutely. The festival itself, those of you who haven't heard of it, is 30 plus bands, primarily punk rock music, but a lot of other great music, as Sangria Furlo here that we're listening to tonight. My band Superposition, EWL will be one of the great ones to watch there. We're also being headlined by Green Jelly. I got to remember to mention those guys more often. They're headlining the damn show. But it's a 2-day event, October 10th and 11th again in Davenport, Iowa. Fun, food, lots of great music, beer. There's also beer.
There's beer?
There's beer.
Oh, amazing. Are you gonna bring a beer for me from the brewery you're in now, so I can taste what that Florida
I think
brewery
we might have to do that. I'll put in a request. I think we could arrange that.
Thank you very much. I mean, you don't have to bring a whole load, just one for me.
Yeah, man. Dukester could bring you some famous Wisconsin beer as well.
If I make it.
If you make it.
Chris will be there with bells on.
I don't know. Part of me feels guilty for skipping my cousin's wedding.
Nah. Invite the wedding party.
Good idea. We'll get them married on stage.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
No, they wouldn't go for that. It's not rich enough.
Well, I mean, the thing is that I know that Tim is inviting a whole load of church leaders and I think also a rabbi and different religious leaders. So whatever denomination they are, I'm sure that there'll be somebody there who'll be licensed to marry them.
Yeah. If I would have told that a few months ago, but I think they already put a nice chunk of change into the whole thing. Because her fiance, the one she's marrying, his parents created the cheesehead.
Yeah, I'm lost on that one. I don't know what a cheesehead is.
It's a thing that you see a lot of people wearing on their heads up here. It looks like a thing of cheese. It's made out of foam.
They invented that.
Yes. Elon Musk wore one recently, right?
Yeah, it's a Green Bay Packers icon, and they're probably sold on every street corner of Wisconsin. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, but it seems to see more in Illinois because they try to make fun of us McConnell's cheeseheads.
I see.
Now, are they quite spongy?
Yes.
They look like it. Yeah.
So when they get like a little old and maybe a little worn, you could use them like with cleaning products around the house as well.
You probably could.
See, that's called upcycling.
Reused, refurbished, recycled.
Yeah. I'm all about upcycling.
Right on. Okay, let's get into. I'm sure Chris has got it by now.
Oh, yeah, I've had it. I just had to reboot my Spotify because it wasn't working. But I'm good to go.
All right. Sangria Furlo by Sangria Furlo.
Take a trip through the heart of this wretch. an unchronicled wreck. The crown of the troll through the decalogues of his soul. There are tempests, there is wonder, gonna freebase, there screams thunder. The defiance, it is meager, as the acrosia becomes weaker and weaker. Sangria Furlo, Sangria Furlo. The crutch is rotten. Swim through the spoils, the spoils, the spoils. These creatures and duet impressions of that fatal gateways. Terror, television, contraception, concealed derision. This cortex, losing context, losing pretext. No vortex, no vortex. Sangria Furlo, Sangria Furlo. The sangre charred and molten, the pathway enigmatic neural gateways. Tick off the chronometer, tick off soul's barometer. Bound children of Hades, this black dog's got black wings. Wings, 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 wings. Inject a solution for this hard confusion. The villain dispersed, the energy reverse. Sangria Furlo, Sangria Furlo, Sangria Furlo, Sangria Furlo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have professional vocal training, sir?
I studied Linklater technique at Boston University, which is actually an acting technique. Basically, it was created by Kristen Linklater, and so yes, I had some training, but it wasn't really for singing. But I employ it when I am singing.
Is there a nutshell version that you can elaborate just a little bit more into as far as how it relates to acting?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so one of the things, the way that we were taught Linklater technique in the theater program and acting program at Boston University was one of the first things you do is you try to put yourself into a baby state. So you try and strip everything off, everything that you've learned, everything that you know from life.
Yes.
You go into a fetal position. That's one of the first things you learn, but it's quite a complex technique. And I'm not sure that I'm actually terribly qualified in it. I did study it for 2 years, and it certainly has been helpful, but it has to do with being completely, very, very open emotionally and also just being kind of aware of your body and the bad habits that you've learned through pain, because obviously through life you go through, no matter how privileged you're from, no matter how privileged a background you're from, you go through pain, no matter what. Being a human being is a painful process, and so you learn how to get in touch with those things on an emotional level. But there's also techniques in breathing involved in it. There's techniques in posture involved in it. There's techniques in terms of how to use your diaphragm, how to sing from your gut, or how to speak from your gut when you're delivering lines as an actor. So I'm not, I sang in a choir. I did sing in a choir.
Right.
But
Well, I find that.
I did have also, I have to say, I had some training from an opera singer, also at Boston University. I had some training in basically in musical theater, but it was the training was kind of operatic. So there are two things there.
Well, that works for rock and roll.
It does. I mean, Freddie Mercury, he recorded an opera, and I think that Freddie Mercury is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, singer who ever lived in rock and roll.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. The tones that he could get, and the clean and the highs and all of it. Yes.
But
well, it's interesting.
Very interesting though, because you talk about resonation. He talked about his mouth and his teeth, because his teeth were not, let's say, your average teeth. He had quite long teeth, and so his mouth was part of the instrument, and so some of the resonation he got was because of his mouth.
Yeah.
And so you need to kind of know what your own body. You have to be very aware of what your own body can deliver, and how, and what the kind of junctions and the highways are.
Interesting. I like how you were talking about how you kind of strip yourself of everything that's you, so that you might be able to find a different voice or aspects of your voice that are new to you. If I'm hearing you somewhat correctly.
The philosophy of it is finding truth. That's the philosophy of it.
Okay.
You find truth. And so you find truth within yourself. And then, if you're not faking it, you're making it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting also, not to use the word interesting 100,000 times, but when I was, I'd say, finding my voice for the project, Superposition, and I was on the first EP that we did. I had a number of different avenues of getting there vocally, and just checking out, spread my wings, seeing what I could feel. But it is a bit like finding a character, and I found, that there were things I was able to get out that I hadn't sang like before. I mean, characteristic of different things I've done before, but I like how you were talking about emptying the cup is the way I put it.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's about.
Yeah. And truth, I can relate to the truth part too, because it better be something that you're, relating to you on somewhat of a personal level somewhere, or else could be not everything you could be.
Well, again, going back to one of my big heroes, Martin Scorsese, he talks about when you're writing a screenplay, that you should be writing about something you know about.
Okay.
And he made all those gangster films. He grew up in I believe Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan, and he grew up in I suppose neighborhoods where the mafia was prevalent, and that's why his films, I suppose, are quite genuine, because they're from his own personal experience. And so when I write a song,
yeah, you're spitting out your DNA.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when I write a song, it's about something that I've experienced or that's very personal to me, which is often why I don't write a lot of songs about politics, because politics are a veneer of something else, of something more
It's also
sociological.
two different poles. Yeah, it's also two different poles, and if you're, trying to divide your audience, that's a good way of going about it. Or divide, I don't know, touchy stuff. I'm all for speaking your voice and making it known how you feel.
Yeah, I
T-
mean,
tell us about Sangria Furlo. Not to get too much into politics as we begin it.
no, well, it's not a political song at all. It's I suppose, okay, so this is one of the most personal songs I've written, and it the riff, the guitar part, the structure came from Mark Cornthwaite, who was the guitar player in our band, and unfortunately he passed away. And
Sorry.
basically what happened was, when I joined the band, as I said, I had just gone through a bereavement, and he came up with that riff. He sent me the riff, not just the riff, he sent me the riff and the chorus, and actually it was a different song, and I didn't like the song that he'd sent me, and so I took it into, I don't know, some music program, probably a rudimentary one like GarageBand, and I cut the song up, and then I wrote these lyrics about my experience sitting next to my very close relative who was dying, sitting next to him in his hospital room the last night that he was alive. And the song, you know, one of the things that's very interesting now, when you're dying and you go to hospital, if you're lucky enough to live in Europe or in the United States or the Occidental world, is that they can give you drugs which they say make the person who's dying more peaceful, makes the journey easier for them. Whether that's true or not, nobody knows except for the person who's on those drugs when they're dying. But it certainly makes it seem like they're calmer and they're in a better place, and that's certainly comforting for the family. But the idea of Sangria Furlo, Sangria is sort of the drug that you're being given or that you're taking as you're crossing over to death. And furlough is what we all experienced during, well, not all of us, but some of us experienced during the COVID era, let's say. And that's sort of a bit of time off work. And certainly when you're dying, you no longer have any responsibilities. So you're on vacation to a certain extent. And so it's the drug you're being given when you're on that final vacation, really. That's what the song is about. And there's all sorts of imagery in there, which
Now,
is actually something.
would that be an accurate explanation of the band name as well, or was that? I know we were talking about the song.
Well, okay, so what happened was, we had another name as a band, and we discovered before we did our first public concert that there was another band that had that name already.
Gotcha.
And really, we were at the venue, and I'm saying to the guys, you know, they need to introduce us, and we haven't chosen a band name yet. We've been arguing over it. All sorts of stupid names came up.
I've been there, is why I giggle. It's a fun situation.
I just said, just name the band after the song, you know, and we all agreed to it, and that was it. You know, there wasn't much time to come to the final decision because we had to get up on stage, and so that's how we ended up with the band name. But we had to change the spelling of the band because in Spain, you know, we had to give it a phonetical a phonetic spelling, because in Spain, when you write the O-U-G-H, people go, Sangria Furlo, which sounds very Irish, actually.
It does.
Or it sounds very Gaelic, but it's not what it's not what the band name's supposed to sound like.
Gotcha.
So we altered the spelling because of that.
Mark, do me a favor. You probably told me at the beginning of the show tonight, and like I said, I was having a little bit of problems. But introduce your band by members. Who's in the band now again?
Well, okay, so we were a 4-piece. Now we're a 3-piece.
Okay.
So we've got Rolly Cannell, the legendary Rolly Cannell on drums.
Okay.
Rolly also, he's a bit of a legend because he drums for the band The Wasps, which is a band that started in 1970. He's not an original member, but it's a band that started in 1976 in London. It's one of the original punk bands from London.
Yeah, original punk. Hell yeah.
Yeah, one of the original punk bands from London, and it went into a furlough for many, many years.
Gotcha.
But
I see what you did there.
the lead vocalist, Jesse Lindeen, he had moved down here to the coast, down here in Spain, and he started to jam with Rolly and some other musicians, Martin Pope, and basically they reformed the Wasps down here. So that's Rolly. Rolly is quite an incredible individual because he does all these things. He's also a stand-up comedian. He's written a novel as well. His novel
Renaissance man.
Absolutely. His novel is called Under a Marbella Sky, which is a gangster novel. Marbella is a town which is right next to our town, and it's I don't know, it's like the United Nations of the criminal underworld that live there. This part of Spain is one of the places in the world that has the highest level of drug trafficking.
Yeah.
It comes from Colombia apparently to Africa, and then Africa up through Spain, and then out to the rest of Europe. You can imagine what drug that is. And then, of course, Morocco has one of the highest production of marijuana in the world. So that all gets smuggled up here and then goes out to Europe. So there's a big criminal underworld here. And so he wrote a fictitious novel, a piece of fiction about that, based in Marbella, Under a Marbella Sky. You can get it on Amazon. Plugging your book, Rolly.
Excellent. There you go.
He's also a stand-up comedian. He also has a film company, Film It in Spain. So he's a pretty amazing guy. Then we have Dennis. Dennis plays bass in the band, and he also sings.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Dennis is originally from the Ukraine. Sorry, Rolly, by the way, is originally from Salford in the UK. That's just next to Manchester. Dennis is originally from the Ukraine, but he's really Spanish. He's been living here since he was 6, and he's quite an incredible bass player, a very good songwriter. And he sings lead vocals on one of the songs that we released on Trans-European Metal Disco, the song called Unfocused, which is, I think, a fabulous song about musicians who also hate superheroes.
Interesting concept.
I'm Mark, and I play guitar in the band, and I do most of the lead vocals, and we all write the songs together.
So Dennis and Rolly will be accompanying you at Punk in the Corn when you come over?
Absolutely, it's going to be 3 of us. We thought it would be 4, but it's going to be 3 of us. But
Right
it's going
on.
to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
My band's going to be a 3-piece as well. We're still looking for a drummer, which I am actively advertising. So if you know anybody, send them our way.
Not in Florida. I don't know any drummers in Florida.
Well, we'll take Spanish, Portugal. It's all good. But
you need somebody to rehearse with you.
Yes, I'm teasing. Let's hear the last, and thank you for what you were telling us about Sangria Furlo, the song and the title as well. Shall we hear the last of the 4 then?
Chris, I don't know which one. I don't know which one I proposed for the show. I can't remember now.
We had 18th floor. We had
Song 9.
Oh, song 9. Oh, that's
something with
an
the 9
interesting
in
story.
it. Yes.
There's a very interesting story behind that one.
Well, let's listen to it and check it out.
You know how many dead bodies are out there? A lot.
What's that? What?
It's all right, man.
Thumbnail to the big video screen. Two black dominoes, union weak, laser beam, and love you but the signs you sing. A faded postcard dreams. The faded postcard dreams. The faded postcard dreams. The faded postcard dreams. We give you the woman pumpkin mirage, head on precision, ego tails massage. We give you the woman pumpkin mirage, head on precision, ego tails massage. Vanilla punchline. Did you think the kids will take it? Your power's lie. You ransom makeup. Your timepiece is gone, and the crowd turned them to shit. The turning. Yeah, the crowd turned them to shit. 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 We give you the Reuben pumpkin mirage, head on precision, ego tails massage. We give you the Reuben pumpkin mirage, head on precision, ego tails massage. Sorcerer's Emily has won you acclaim. The sound waves carry your words they scream. They love you but the song you sing are faded postcard dreams. The faded postcard dreams. The faded. The faded postcard dreams. The faded postcard dreams.
Yeah, man. I love
Thank
your
you.
approach. I love your approach to songwriting.
Thank you. Thank you. very
I
much.
feel a little bit of a kindred soul with you, man. I like how you don't need a whole lot to stand on when you're doing a part. I don't know. Let me rephrase that. You have no problem. I've heard people say that I don't mind taking risks once in a while. I feel that in what you're doing.
Yeah, you kind of had to discover your boundaries, and you have to go across those boundaries then. And then, it's kind of like, I think Hunter S. Thompson talked about it on a sociological level when he talked about, I think in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, he wrote about the kind of the social changes that happened in the 1960s in the United States. He talked about, the wave rolling in, the wave of, I suppose, the sexual revolution, the cultural revolution, the music revolution. He talked about that wave rolling up on the beach, and then he said, if you stand on a high hill and you look out, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't know the quote exactly, and I hope I get this right. You can see where the wave broke and rolled back into the ocean.
The high water mark.
Apply that kind of the high water mark. That's exactly what he talks about. The high water mark. And I think you can sort of apply that imagery to a personal level when it artistically. That you push things, you just push them as far as you can, and maybe you got to bring them back a little bit, but they were further. They went further than they would have gone if you just kind of stayed safe.
And also, coincidentally, philosophically, it's almost like surfing to me when I'm going to those places. And that wave's going to break. So you would like for it to hold you up. And that's what I mean about not having to subscribe to any kind of structure. On a few of our first interviews, I said, fuck choruses. I enjoy being able to put down a bass line, put something around it, or a drum line, or whatever that front line is, and play with it and see how far away from it you can get and come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Discovery.
Yes. Some might call it experimental, but I don't know. That is a nice balance too. When you can, I think we're far past the gatekeeper regime of some of the genres of music. I'm speaking of Brian personally, but some of the stuff you can get away from what that style of music should be, and get away with quite a bit. But it is nice to stick to your roots as well. Bring it back home eventually.
One of the great experimenters of electric guitar, and this is my flavor of the month. One of the great experimenters in electric guitar is Tom Morello, who's the guitar player in Rage Against the Machine.
Familiar.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I know. It's,
No.
It's silly.
We appreciate the introduction, but a man who needs them. Yes.
Because he, one of the methods he uses is he'll record a bass line sometimes, because he plays bass as well, or he'll record a guitar line, and then he'll record it in 3 different ways, and on a little tape recorder, and then he'll come back to it the next day and figure out which one works the best, and I think we have to be a little dangerous, but also, when Sangria Furlo perform live, we push the boundaries of the performance. We have sections in our songs which are designed for improvisation.
Excellent.
We improvise in those sections, and we improvise in terms of the way in which we perform them. So, for example, in Sedition Day, there's a section which is the section where we go down low.
Right.
And we have the lines Chelsea Clinton with Chelsea Clinton in her champagne.
Right.
And champagne is not necessarily the drink. It's also a fake type of pain. That's what we're talking about in there. It's not just the drink.
You're so heavy, man. I love you.
Well, but I mean, if you watch Spike Lee's The 25th Hour, I started to use one of my favorite lines from that movie in the improvisation section, which is champagne for my real friends and real pain for my sham friends. You know?
Yeah.
So we get into things like that. That's where it kind of is the song now at the moment when we're playing it live. But this song 9, what did you get from it?
Chris?
Yeah, Chris, it's all on you this time, man.
No, it's all on John. I got distracted halfway through because of my cat.
I don't know what to tell you, brother. I love the songwriting. Is the biggest thing that I could come back with you on that, especially at this hour of the show.
Well, this song, I mean, when I sing this song, I'm a bit disgusted at myself that I wrote it sometimes, you know, because it goes into a part of myself, part of my own personality associated with greed. And I don't mean greed for money. In this instance, it's greed for experience. And it's about, I wrote a song about a rock star,
Right.
who to me, through the filter of how I was feeling when I wrote the song, and it's not a very healthy filter, who to me has everything on a silver platter, and who can experience certain things and do certain things that most people can't do. It's a bit of a bitchy song, and it came about because I went to a rock concert,
Rockstar
and I
privilege.
won't say who the person was who was performing, but this is somebody I grew up with, and this person is one of the biggest rock stars in the world right now. He's from the United States. He's from New York. He's one of the biggest rock stars in the United States.
Right.
And he's in a band, and the band played down here locally, in not even in the city. They played in our suburb in a big festival.
Right.
And there's this one song there's this one song which I really wanted to hear. And I'm not in touch with this person, by the way. You know, I don't have any communication with them. But
Right.
there was this one, because if I was, I would have said, please play this song. But there's this one song I wanted to hear, and they didn't play it. And by the 9th song in the set, I was really pissed off because they hadn't played it. And so I wrote this really bitchy song about him because he didn't play the song I wanted. So, yeah.
And you're still having problems with that, with coming to terms with writing the song itself?
Well, I wrote some really horrible things in there. You know, I wrote, "We give you the Rupert Pupkin mirage," which means, you know, Rupert Pupkin is a character in, again, a Scorsese film.
Okay.
Who's a comedian who has very little talent, played by Robert De Niro, and I think it's called The Last King of Comedy. That's the name of the movie. And you know, he is Rupert Pupkin, and so it's the idea of we're pretending to be less talented than you to massage your ego. So it's kind of horrible, but it's a song that I own it. You have to. I think you have to own the spectrum of emotions, the spectrum of horrible things inside you and good things inside you throughout a set, and you have to take on those aspects of your own personality to play that character essentially when you're performing.
Well said. Well said, man.
So that's what the song is about.
We appreciate you being on the show. I think we're getting
thank you for
to
having
the
me.
end. Yeah, man.
It's been a pleasure being your guest.
You've been one of the more in-depth conversationalists that we've had, and we've had some in-depth conversationalists. But I want to give a special shout out to these people sitting to the left and right of me. Chris, he jokes a lot, says he doesn't do much here, but I couldn't do it without him. And the same is absolutely true for this wonderful woman sitting in the background here, doing her thing during the show. Kimberly, thank you. Chris, thank you.
See, I believe it about Kimmy, but not myself.
Have you not been listening to what this gentleman's been saying all night?
Yeah.
I could bullshit it like that because I couldn't hear you for the first 3 minutes. But thanks so much, Mark. I'm looking really forward to meeting you in October. Hopefully we may be able to meet sometime before that on a show or something. But if you would like to, we'd love to have you come back. Especially
That would be a pleasure.
If you have anything being released or you'd like to play up any other songs, please come back. And
Well, we're probably releasing some songs in French soon.
Even better.
So, yeah, we're probably going to release some of the songs that are already recorded, which have already been released in English on Trans-European Metal Disco, on our album Trans-European Metal Disco, which you can check out on Spotify or any of the major streaming platforms. But we will probably be releasing two songs in French.
Right on, man. We'd love to have you back.
Awesome.
You can bring the gang if they'd like to participate. I know it's a little on the late side for you, but more the merrier if you ever want to come on back. I'm
sure in particular Rowley would love to be on the show. I'm sure he'd love to be on the show. At the moment, he's making I'm not sure if he's making a movie or if he's making an advert, a TV advert. I'm not quite sure, but he's doing something creative right now in another town. So he's not around tonight.
Excellent. Well, more power to him. And are there any other shouts that you would like to give for anybody or anything coming up? Any gigs?
We have a gig on the 12th of July in Groove Bar. We're being supported by the band The Kojaks, or just Kojaks, in fact. And Groove Bar is in Fuengirola. The first set will be at 7 o'clock, and the second set will be at 9 o'clock in the evening in Fuengirola, in the Puerto Deportivo, which is the marina in Fuengirola.
Excellent. Very good.
12th of July, 7 p.m. Sangria Furlo, Kojaks, Groove Bar.
Booyah. Booyah. Hell yeah. I'm glad that we didn't have any situation with Chris's cat and your dog this evening. That could have been bedlam, but it looks like we made out all right.
She's a real killer, this one.
Dogs and cats.
And my cat wanted attention today. She wanted to be on the screen.
Yeah, she was getting into it tonight. Thanks again for coming, Mark. And we'll catch you next time. I think we're about to wrap it up. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Have a great night, you guys. Catch you next Thursday.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Woo!